For the past few months, I've been making a psychological first-person horror game with some dating sim elements. The concept is, you are in your house, you are safe here, except some things are wrong. Objects are out of place, rooms are not the way you remember them. And then there is her. She says she lives with you, but you don't remember her. Although she does feel familiar, but you just can't recall. Then she says she's thirsty, so you should give her some of your blood, right? After all, that's a natural thing to do. And then you wake up. But are you actually awake? What's really happening here? Can you figure out what's real? This game is gonna involve switching between dream and reality. In the dream, things will be somewhat distorted. In reality, everything will seem normal, at first glance at least. But in both, there are clues, and if you ignore them, you may just end up as a snack. I also plan to connect the vampire lore in my game to ancient Greece and goddess Hecate, Greek goddess of moon, night and witchcraft among some other things. It's not to be historically accurate or anything like that, I simply find it interesting and I think I can make some cool story with that. The engine I am making this game in is Godot. Why Godot? Well, it's simple. Godot is simple, I mean. To the point that even an idiot like me can understand it. The downside though, it's less popular so it doesn't have as many tutorials. Why am I not using Unreal? Well, it's mainly because I don't need AAA hyper-realistic graphics for an anime-style horror game. And why not Unity? Well, let's just say that some of their business decisions a few years back left a bad taste. Even if they reverse them later on, the fact that they even proposed that and thought that developers would just agree to something like that is... So, Godot it is. Well then, let's start from the beginning. When I first started this project, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I had opened Blender once before this. It was for the donut tutorial, and I only finished part 1 of it. So, of course, I decided to start by modeling a character. Brilliant idea. This was my first vampire model. No textures anymore because I didn't think to export them back then. But as you can see, it was rough. Especially when compared to her now. While still not perfect, this she looks like a proper character. And not like a placeholder NPC from 2003 who got her hair transplanted from a floor mop by a blind in one eye turkey. Pretty much the same thing happened with the house. Back then I built it with no plan whatsoever. No layout or room structure in mind. Which resulted in looking good from the outside but being a complete mess on the inside. With bad wall and room proportions, having some wall thicker and some thinner. To put it simply, it was a layout with zero thought put behind it. Although I only figured that out once I imported it into Godot and tried to fill one of the rooms with furniture. Nothing fixed. I then realized that maybe I should think before trying to make something like that. Wow, revolutionary concept. So I ended up looking up some websites for house planning and I made something decent. So before I get to what I did this month, I'm just going to mention some things I already added before. So of course, since I have a vampire, I thought I should have a mirror. And in this mirror you can see yourself, but you can see her. I didn't put much effort into the character replay or his animations, mainly because he's not the one you'll be looking at. After all, you won't see that ugly face unless you look in the mirror.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I also have some simple inventory with item description. This inventory is separate for dream and reality. And there are some items that can already be picked up. Like this fly sorter, for example, or some keys that can actually open doors. Then there's of course dialogue. When I first started, I made a simple dialogue from some tutorial, but then I found out about Dialogic and it's simply too good not to use. Then there are the things I did this month. Among those, there are save slots. Before this I had a simple save and load on pause. Now there is a proper menu for saves. There were some problems from making it though. Originally when I first started, I changed menus by switching scenes, which worked until I needed the saves menu to be accessible from both main menu and pause menu. So yeah, that broke pretty much everything. After that, I ended up reworking my entire menu system. Now, instead of changing scenes, I just toggle each menu's visibility inside one shared node 2D, which works great. And now the saves menu has confirmation on overwrite, screenshot previews, and autosave on pause. There are still some bugs though, but we don't need to talk about those. At this point I had filled most of the rooms, at least enough to recognize what kind of rooms they are. But then I had one room left and I had no idea what to do with it. When I modeled the house, I left myself one room as a spare, but now instead it ended up being a headache thinking what to do with it. In the end, I turned it into a lore room. I mean art room. Yes, art. In here I added a statue of Hecate. I found a really cool one on Sketchfab. And so this is how the room ended up looking like. In this room I plan to hide some secrets in both the dream and reality variations of it. Although I haven't really decided what to do here beyond that. Well, at least it's much better than being an empty room. One day I found out about how to check polygon count. So naturally I look at my vampire model and 453,000 polygons. For a character in a small indie horror game, that's like 10 times too much. For a comparison, you know, from Wuthering Waves, that's about 95,000. And that's a super detailed, super optimized model. So yeah, I had to fix that. Most of it was actually hair and braids, as well as this leg thing. I tried to make this a leg net, but it didn't work out really well. Back then when I did her hair, I used a curve method, but I didn't know you could lower the amount of segments, and I ended up with insane values of this. So while fixing that, I redid the hair, eyes, eyelashes, made her skin paler, added a bite mark, and some more small details. Also changed this leg net thing into a legs sleeve thing. And now she's around 48,000. I could still probably lower it down a bit, but that felt enough. That's much better now, both for the game performance and my sanity. After that I fell into quite a rigging rabbit hole. Having reworked my model, I needed to rig it. I found a good tutorial, learned about AK controls, and I fully rigged my model with newly added controls. With that I made idle and working animations, and also added a transition between them. So in game, she can now follow the player, switch between idle and walk, and smoothly transition in between. There was some jittering at first, because wiggle bones needed some time to settle at the start of each animation loop. The way I fixed it is super simple. I just made the animation start later so the bones have time to settle. There are probably better solutions, but this works, so for the time being I'm not touching it. And of course, with wiggle I added some jiggle physics. For hair, obviously. Obviously. Then one of the coolest things I added is anime style see eyes through hair effect. Before, the eyes were hidden, and now you can see the eyes, eyelashes and eyebrows through the hair. It's small change, but it makes a crazy difference. Another thing I have added in the meantime are readable books. So they have next page, previous page and exit. Simple, but now with this I have another way to deliver lore. This one I also made some small optimizations. So before I added day-night cycle and I had it update every frame. But then I realized that for my game there is no point in doing that. So I made day-night cycle be controlled by the story instead. Besides the vampire, I also lowered the polygon count on some of my other earlier assets. And I also made the mirror active only when the player is in the room with that specific mirror. Since mirrors are quite heavy for the performance, this helped a lot. So what's next? Next month I want to add having players choose their name at the start of the game. I also want to spend some time making some proper settings menu with brightness, and also add a second language. So when I write story later on, I will be doing it in 2 languages. So in case I wanted to add another one later, it will be much easier. Then of course I also need to add some more freaky dream stuff and also make some more differences between dream and reality. And overall just fill up the rooms a bit, because now they're just quite basic. Then I also want to start working on real story progression, but I have no idea if I will get to it anytime soon. Overall, I have no idea if this game will succeed. I don't know if anyone will even play it. But I'm going to keep working on it, so if you want to follow the process, subscribe to my channel. I post shows about twice a week as updates for what I managed to do. And I also try to make longer devlogs like this once a month. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.